Hello and good evening. You're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Hafiz Marzuki. Private companies did not fund Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim's recent overseas trips to 5 countries. Communications Minister Fahmi clarifies that the government covered the costs for Anwar and his delegation, while corporate executives who accompanied them paid for their own expenses.
Perdana Menteri tidak dibiayai oleh mana-mana syarikat, tapi ditanggung oleh kerajaan. Yang berlaku adalah dengan sewaan khas pesawat ini, pihak kerajaan mendapati ada penjimatan jika dibandingkan dengan pesawat sedia ada yang jumlah kosnya akan mencecah 2.5 juta ringgit. Maksud ada penjimatan lebih daripada RM900,000.
In Parliament on Thursday, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim explained that the government's new strategy to reduce overseas travel expenses involves inviting companies like Petronas and Proton to participate. Anwar stated these firms covered about 75% of the total cost for his recent trips, which drew questions about the propriety of the arrangement. Fahmi also clarified that Anwar's daughter, Nurul Izzah, joined the delegation in her official role as director of the think tank Social and Economic Research Initiative and not as a family member.
Airlines from ASEAN member countries may soon get to operate flights with stopover rights in other member nations. Transport Minister Anthony Loke makes the announcement after the signing of Protocol 5 on own stopover rights, which allows flights to make stopovers between points within any ASEAN member state.
According to him, the agreement was reached during the 30th ASEAN Transport Ministers meeting and the 58th Senior Transport Officials meeting. Loke said the new rights would enable seamless travel across the region, which promotes tourism and enhances trade. Previously, airlines could only stop at one destination and had to return to their original country. With the signing of Protocol 5, airlines can now make multiple stops. For example, a flight from Kuala Lumpur can stop in Singapore before continuing to Indonesia. The protocol will take effect next year, pending signatures from Indonesia and Myanmar.
A Taiwanese court has ordered the murderer of a Malaysian student to pay over 6 million new Taiwan dollars or 824,000 ringgit to the victim's family. Chen Poyen was ordered to compensate the mother and father of the female university student he strangled to death, with interest to be calculated annually at 5% from August 2023.
Chen is currently serving a life sentence for killing the student in October 2022. He was found guilty of murder by the Shilin District Court in January, a verdict that was upheld by the Taiwan High Court in June. According to a statement released by the courts, Chen confessed to suffocating the victim in her rented residence after she refused to return part of the money he previously transferred into her account. The victim had been studying at Taipei University and working as a part-time model and live streamer on social media.
The police have no information on the current whereabouts of fugitive businessman Loh Teck Jo, also known as Jo Loh. Despite allegations that Loh is hiding in Myanmar, Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Razaruddin Hussein says Malaysian authorities have not received any updates from their Myanmar counterparts.
Razaruddin said if such information was verified, Myanmar authorities would notify Malaysia as a member of the ASEAN police. Lawyer Tan Sri Muhammad Shafi Abdullah, who represents former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib Razak, recently claimed at a forum that Loh was hiding in Myanmar. He based his claim on a testimony by former 1MDB lawyer Jasmine Liu, who alleged that Loh had assisted her in entering the country through unofficial channels.
There has been calls for a broader definition of gig workers to cover more sectors beyond e-hailing and p-hailing. According to ISIS Malaysia's Farah Nabilah Abdul Rahman, recognizing gig workers as distinct from traditional employees would enable regulations to be tailored to the unique nature of gig work.
From categorizing these gig workers, according to the employer-employee relationship, we have several tests, but this is from other countries like we have common law tests, economic dependency tests, which may be adopted in Malaysia as well to determine whether it resembles employer-employee relationship. And from this, government would be able to precisely craft what kind of protections required and who should contribute.
She added that the gig worker bill must include measures to better protect workers and address unfair treatment meted out by platforms.
But in terms of certain things under the labor rights, such as suspension, they don't have any legal framework to defend themselves. I take a case of IV Law, who actually appeal to government, bring it to the industrial court, but the industrial court does not, basically the rule that this case is not under the industrial court because she's not a worker, she's not an employee. So it is being dismissed. So there is no legal framework to basically protect them. And secondly, they at the same time, they also don't have the right to unionize like employees have. So they don't, at the moment, there is no legal framework at all. So probably what could be done is either extend the right to unionize, which could enable a stronger collective bargaining and a legal, from under the legal framework.
Communications Minister Fahmi said the gig worker bill, earlier slated for tabling this December, will likely be delayed to the next parliament sitting.
We'll go for a short break. Stay with us.
Bagiku, Haikal adalah segalanya. Tetapi baginya tidak mencukupi.
Bila keluar dengan Intan, finally abang rasa happy after so long.
Kalau itu pilihan dia, mungkin ini peluang Suri untuk mengubah takdir.
Macam mana daripada KL pindah kampung ni?
Saya nak cari keterangan. Kita semua ada pilihan sendiri.
Stream Andai Tiada Dia. Hiburan terbaik hanya di sini.
Daulat Tuanku.
Yesterday, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister and former Defense Minister, as well as the military commander of Hamas. Aisha Abdul Rahman from University Malaya discusses the significance of this move.
There's huge significance when it comes to the issuing of these arrests. It has taken six months at least, but then there's so many things have happened since the request. Of course, we know, first of all, it took a turn where unprecedentedly the court even entertained amicus briefs to be filed by different states at the request of the UK and even Israel for the first time. He even filed a challenge against on various issues, including jurisdiction. And then, of course, I mean, independently but somehow linked is also the developments at the ICJ. With the ICJ, for example, the ICJ advisory opinion, we can see that in the court's decision in issuing these arrest warrants as well. The court, among others, recognized the fact that there are two armed conflicts here, international armed conflict between Israel and Palestine, as well as a non-international armed conflict between Israel and Hamas. And in that sense, international humanitarian law will apply. And for instance, for the non-state parties in a sense, obligations under the Geneva Conventions, Common Article 1, would also be relevant here. So in that sense, there are legal obligations arising not just for the 134 state parties of the ICC, but also the non-state parties.
Aisha also highlighted the unprecedented nature of the ICC's arrest warrants.
This is the first time leaders of a democratic state and a Western allied state are being issued warrants of arrest for the first time ever in the history of the 22-year history, at least, of the ICC. And this is, of course, sends a strong message of the fact that no one is above the law, no one is above international law. I think, and when it comes to the states themselves, political cost of the state as well. I mean, this further exposes the double standards, for example, with the likes in US, and of course, for the UK, for Germany, for France, for Canada, who are state parties to the ICC. Again, there's even more political pressure for them to carry out these arrests. On the flip side of all of that, I think I would also say here that I think it's also a recognition, increasingly recognition for Palestine statehood and what is happening to the rights of Palestinians. And also, not to mention the legitimacy, all these allegations previously when it comes to the double standards of the ICC.
Israeli warplanes carried out a series of airstrikes on the southern suburb of Beirut, reducing several residential buildings to rubble. Reuters footage showed thick clouds of smoke rising following the explosions.
On Thursday, Israeli strikes killed at least 47 people in eastern Lebanon. U.S. mediator Amos Hochstein arrived in Israel on Wednesday to continue negotiations on a ceasefire with Lebanon's Hezbollah movement. Since October 2023, Lebanon's health ministry reports 3,583 people have been killed, mostly during Israeli offensives that intensified in September. These figures don't specify whether the victims are civilians or combatants. Meanwhile, Hezbollah strikes have killed more than 100 people in northern Israel and the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights.
Over in Laos, a second Australian tourist has died after consuming contaminated alcohol. This makes it the sixth foreign national to lose their life in a suspected alcohol poisoning incident. A British woman, another Australian, an American, and 2 Danish nationals have also died from recent days following a night out in Vang Valley. Authorities suspect methanol poisoning from counterfeit or homemade alcohol. Even small amounts of methanol, commonly found in bootleg spirits, can be deadly. Vang Valley, a riverside town in central Laos, is a popular spot for young backpackers traveling through Southeast Asia. US President-elect Donald Trump nominates former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi to be the US Attorney General, moving swiftly to replace his former nominee Matt Gaetz. This after the embattled former congressman withdrew himself from consideration for the role.
Gaetz, who faced opposition from Senate Republicans, was the subject of a House Ethics Committee probe into allegations of having sex with an underage 17-year-old girl and illicit drug use. He has denied wrongdoing. Bondi served as the top law enforcement officer of Florida from 2011 to 2019 and was on Trump's Opioid and Drug Abuse Commission during his first administration. Her resume contrasts with that of Gaetz, who has little of the traditional experience expected of an attorney general. Bondi would likely face less opposition from senators involved in the confirmation process compared with Gaetz. Trump has praised Bondi for her prosecutorial experience and saying she was tough on crime as Florida's first female attorney general.
That wraps up AWANI Tonight. Check out our web portal, keeping you informed on the critical events shaping our world. All in one place at international.astroawani.com. That's all for now. I'm Hafiz Marzuki. Thanks for watching and good night.